Hey guys, Moose here. Welcome back to another episode of Stonehearth in our Ascendancy playthrough, and today is March 8th. Not much really happened on this date in the past, unfortunately. I don't really have anything good to pick from, so we're gonna have to go for one that's a year old now. Mainly because I'm really shocked that it's a year old. I did not realize it had come out a year ago. And that game is Tom Clancy's The Division, obviously in 2016, which was a year ago today. I had no idea it came out that recently. I thought it was an older game for some reason, or a newer game, I don't know. I just didn't think it came out a year ago now. It seems... I don't know, I have it, I played it, not really any of the new stuff, but the base game I fucked around with. I'm pretty low level, just put a little bit of time into it, not much at all. I think we're delayed on building here because we lack wood, so I'm going to chop some of that down real quick. It's an okay game. There's definitely some issues with it. I don't really like the way that things are bullet sponges. And it really just feels like a worse version of is it Borderlands? Is that really the name of the game? Why do I feel like that's not the name of the game? I think it's Borderlands. Gearbox Software's game, right? I'm not crazy. Anyway, let's say it is. Pretty sure that's it anyway. It just feels like a less fun version of Borderlands. I mean, yeah, it's third person instead of first, and it's a different... Yeah, it's Borderlands, okay. It just doesn't feel as fun. Some aspects of it are cool, I like it. It's kind of like sort of halfway between Borderlands and Watch Dogs, I guess, is how I'd describe it. And it just, I don't know, it's a fine game, it's not terrible, but it just doesn't jump out at me, you know? And that's hard, it's hard, because you can make a good game and have it not do particularly well simply because of that, because you've got games like, recently anyway, not a year ago, but recently, Breath of the Wild. There's no fucking way that that game could compete with Breath of the Wild. Division is nowhere near as entertaining or good. And it's not meant to be, probably. It's a different game. But at the same time, if I'm thinking, like, if I'm sitting down at my computer, I've got the Division, and to be fair, I've got it, so they got their money. So, I don't know what I'm saying they should want in addition to that. But there doesn't seem to be much reason to play it. I'm not seeing what puts it above and beyond other stuff at this point. Price certainly isn't something that does. It's expensive, and that's kind of the issue you get with all these, maybe that's going to be the topic we talk about today. I think that's a pretty good one, actually. If I'm thinking about playing that game, even when it came out, what did we have a year ago? What was I playing a year ago? FF14 for sure, that was most of it, but what else was I playing? Shit, I have no memory of what happened a year ago. I'm gonna have to go back and look. I wonder if Steam keeps records like that. But, it's just there's no... I don't see the Division competing with much of anything for me, personally. It just... Even if it had no gameplay issues or anything like that, it was just... It is what it is, perfectly executed. I still don't see why I would want to play it, generally. What are you guys getting from there? Are you eating in here? Oh, I made food and drink specific ones? Because these ones were full? I had no idea. I forgot about doing that. Oh well. But yeah, I don't see it competing. Especially because we're talking about a $60, I believe, price tag on release, plus whatever DLC there is and all this shit. So it's difficult. Holy shit, again? It's hard to look at that and say, yes, this is what I'm going to spend my time on, this is what I'm going to spend my money on, when there's so many other options. And I think that's something we've talked about before. I'm not going to get back into that and say, oh, well, indie games are such better value. No, that's a conversation we've already had many times. I'm not going to deal with that again. What I am going to talk about is, why do the big publishers, the big developers seem unwilling to drop down to that $10 to $30 price tag. What is stopping them? Because from their perspective, we see this, is it, well, okay, yeah, that's probably what my theory is. You've got, to them, basically, if you're talking at that price point, you're talking about you're really talking about $30 to $45. And not only that, you're talking about a handheld game. And would you say that... I really hope someone gets that person. Who is this? Worker. Okay, well that's not the worst thing in the world, but I'd really like them to actually get that person back first, as opposed to all this other crap they could be doing. I don't think it's gonna happen though. It's just too far away from home. I don't know, it's really annoying. They're like not willing to come over here to do any work, like pick someone up, but they are willing to come over here in order to get themselves killed. It's really... okay, good. Someone took him. It's one of our fighters did it. So, okay. My theory would be that they see it as increasing the supply, increasing the demand by lowering the price doesn't justify the lost revenue in the change in price. Because in their mind, the brand name recognition of it being a AAA game or a major developer or publisher or whatever, and I'm not suggesting Battlefield 4 or whatever. Oh no, Battlefield 4 is old. Battlefield 1, right, that's the newest one. Logic. I'm not suggesting Battlefield 1 should be $30. I'm just saying they don't make $30 games. They just don't. And when they do, it's... hey, we publish some indie games, like Square Enix does that, I think. And they're not really Square Enix games, it's just like, hey, you know, if you're not terrible and you let us take probably most of the profit in exchange for helping to pay for development, we will, you know, put you under our wing, so to speak. That's fine, I don't have anything against that. If that's what it takes to get a game made, all the better, you know? More games on the market's better for us, to a degree. That's not universally true, and there's some stuff going on with Steam right now about that you may or may not be aware of, which is also an interesting read, so consider checking that out. It has to do with Steam Greenlight being discontinued and replaced with another option. It's basically to combat shovelware, which I talked about recently, actually. I think the ET game came out, and I had an episode about that, but yeah, anyway. They generally don't make their own $30 games, or $10 games, or $20 games. Anything under $40 to $60 they just don't do. And when it's a $40 game, that's because there's microtransactions or something baked in. And when they do this is on top of having, like I said, microtransactions in their games, because let's face it, a lot of the time the $60 games have those microtransactions too, so they're kind of double dipping to a degree. And it's frustrating, it sucks, because you look at it and you think, well, why can't they make the smaller games? Why can't they say like, oh, well, it's not worth it to take a chance and say, I'm going to put the Final Fantasy brand on this smaller title? Why the fuck not? Wouldn't it be better to have like a stable of... Wouldn't if you're a major game developer, wouldn't you rather demo and try out a particular type of game on a low budget $10 to $30 release and say, hey, I'm going to try out this new format for this series, and say it's going to be... it's just a short little throwaway game. Basically, it's an indie game. We didn't invest that much effort. Oh, what happened here? That one's not where it should be. Did I mess that up? I don't... That's very strange. How did I mess that up? Anyway. Let's just, you know, throw a modest amount of cash at it. Invest. Invest, basically. It's that's video gaming R&D. Throw it into that. Put out this game. Throw it up on Steam. Don't give it much marketing. Don't go nuts spending on it. Just let it be. Put the money in, kiss the money goodbye, say that it's not coming back. And if it does well, then fantastic. You've found a new genre. You've found a new series to do. I don't understand why they don't take that approach. Why they don't just basically use their standing as a major developer with cash flow and with value. You know, EA could do this, Square could do this, Nintendo could. There's so many companies that could do this. Give people options at the $10 to $30 price point and say, hey, you know, we're going to use this to try out a new idea that we don't have confidence in yet. We're not sure if we like it enough to do a full game, full series, whatever it may be. We're not sure yet. So let's try it at a lower price point and see what happens. And if it's crazy good and popular and everyone loves it, then we can, you know, we can roll out with the actual investment and put something out that people are going to buy. It seems like it's a win-win for the consumer and the company. And I don't really understand why they don't do it. Because, like I said, it seems like a win-win. And I think it would also give them a chance to, you know, like I've talked about this before, but if you look at the Final Fantasy series, there was talk of Final Fantasy 15 being the last Final Fantasy, because the series is not doing well, apparently. I don't know how I feel about that. It seems a little ridiculous that, you know, we can justify having... what's the stupidest sequel that we didn't need? Oh, man. I want to say Call of Duty, but those actually make money. You know what I mean, though, right? There's lots of games that, like, this was not good enough for a sequel, and yet I got one. That happens all the time. So if we're getting that, and you're gonna say you're gonna kill Final Fantasy, are you fucking serious? You're gonna get rid of Final Fantasy as a series because the series isn't performing well. Maybe the issue is mismanagement and spending too much fucking money. Maybe you don't need to be putting so much time and money into a video game. And I think that's probably where the problems lie with the industry. And, you know, I'm an outsider. I don't really know what I'm talking about within the industry, so fair enough if you don't believe me or think that I have anything worth listening to say about that topic. But from an outsider's perspective, how the hell could Final Fantasy not be profitable? Or profitable enough to be worth doing? How? It's fucking Final Fantasy. Holy shit, how could that not make money? If you weren't completely fucking it up. The only way that it could be failing is if they're completely fucking it up. And the second they stop fucking it up, it'll do better. And I think you saw that with 15. 15 was, up until a point, pretty damn good. So, you know, they're going to continue. And they've got the DLC and everything, so they're double dipping again, but whatever. And you could argue that that's not actually double dipping, and that, yeah, you're probably right. But I have some concerns with their use of DLC, so whatever. Point is, they made the game, people liked it, it was good, so there's no issue. But the fact that they even ever arrived in that position, all of that, in my opinion, is solved. You create more certainty in your finances as a company if you go that $10 to $30 route and do a low price, smaller game that's got a low budget and just see what people think. Just try something new. It's like I said, it's R&D. It's worth doing. There's serious benefits for it. You see these indie developers pop up all the time. What was the game that... Oh... Battle Block Theater, what was the one I did recently? Those guys, Behemoth. They're Alien Hominid. They made Alien Hominid, and look where they are now. Crazy popular. You got Battle Block Theater, Castle Crashers, Pit People. They're not capitalizing on that maybe as much as they can. I think they could be making more money than they are if they wanted to be kind of whoring themselves out a little bit more and trying to get big, but it's still success, no matter how you cut it, whether they could be doing better or not. They're successful, and they deserve to be successful. They've been doing a hell of a job. The games they make are good. So why not, with dramatically more financial certainty in order to make this happen. Why would you not do that as a big developer? Why would you not take that and say, hey, they're going to capitalize because they're taking a chance by making a game like Alien Hominid. Probably wasn't making that guy, whoever made it, I'm assuming it was probably only one person, but whatever small team made it, they didn't have any expectation that they're going to make money off it. They just put time into it. Why don't you do that with a major franchise? It doesn't even have to be the major franchise's name. You could just have a different group and you could say this is like whatever. It doesn't have to be any particular setting. Don't let it use the Final Fantasy name or whatever name it may be to sell it. Just put it out there and see what happens. And I think you could definitely make some, you know, like I said, it'd be R&D, so kind of discoveries about what's good and what works for your genre and your company. I think there's a lot of opportunity there that we're missing out on and not learning about because people are like, they see the lower dollar point as the domain of peasants or something, and it's just, that's not how it is. I just really don't understand why they don't do it. And like I said, I guess from their perspective, they would, well, okay, that's not answering the right question. I was going to say because they don't think that the increase in supply justifies the decrease in price per unit. Or sorry, the increase in demand associated with lowering the price does not justify the lowered price per unit and overall revenue as a result. Fine. That's fine if you're talking about Battlefield 1 or a AAA game. I'm not suggesting we lower the price of those. I don't understand why they're not making the investment on games. And I'm trying to think of a reason why they wouldn't just say, we're going to have 5 games a year or something like that that are totally unrelated to anything else and are just their own little one-off. We're just going to try it. We're going to take an idea and see what happens. And if it's not great, who cares? And it's fine if they just put a different name on it. It doesn't even have to have their company's name on it. Just put it out there. Make it an indie game. And I guess they could see it as damaging the brand, but then, I mean, can't you just play a little bit of branding shell game kind of thing? Where you say, you know, Lexus is a Toyota, but it's the luxury brand of Toyota. And you say Square Enix is whatever. It's just the luxury brand of whatever, and then the cheapo brand. Toyota's not cheapo, I love Toyota, but you get the idea. You have another brand name that you use for the lower quality indie game ones where you say, hey, we're just trying something out, seeing what sticks. Do it under a different name. Why not, right? I don't think there's any laws against that. You're not really misleading people. You're just saying, hey, it's a different company. They report up to Square Enix. If you want to look into that, you can, but you know, if you're looking into it, there's a distinction being made still. So I think it wouldn't really hurt the branding in a meaningful way. Certainly not enough to justify missing out on the potential benefit of having different, well, not different, but more data about, really one person dies and you guys all freak out? This is irritating. Let's see if that's actually what the issue is here. No, that's morale. Town members died. Just one. So fucking miserable. You're not in a very cramped... Okay, whatever. I'm not going to worry about it. See if our cooks can do anything about this. Get some varied food in here. Nope, you guys are pretty much already working. That's fine. Yeah, I guess I don't get it. I'd love to talk to one of those guys. I would love to, like, just... this is a fantasy, but I'd love to basically play in a management sim of, like, a major game developer. And by that, I basically mean actually take one over and see what I can do. And be actually in charge of them, not just be a producer or a senior developer or anything like that. Like, actually run the entire company. I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth in that environment and developing in a more intelligent way and in a more interesting way that is not necessarily in line with the standard process, I guess. Some of it's good. Some standard process stuff is good, but I feel like the decision-making process for these big companies is flawed. And, you know, that's outsider's perspective. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but, you know, looking at it from the outside, it sure seems like that's the case. Anyway, that is going to have to do it for today's episode. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join us for the next one as well. Take care.